Welcome back. In this video, we'll be working through the Week 2 CAD guide, where we will be focusing on features. For access to these slides, click the link in the description. And if you're going to be working on Goal 2, go ahead and go to the next video. In this video, we'll be working on Goal 1. So let's go ahead and get started. First, we'll talk about good CAD. It's going to be the same for parts and assemblies as is for sketches. So we want things to be responsive, simple, and robust, which means that whenever we make any slight change, we don't want our features to break, but we want them to change dynamically. So let's go ahead and make a V-belt. So by now, this first step should be pretty simple. We're going to go ahead and sketch out just a rectangle. And we want to make sure that when we create these dimensions, we're looking at the fractions and not just judging based on the picture. Because in the picture, the dimensions get cut off by rounding, which is just automatic within the document. So we'll go ahead and finish this sketch. And instead of extruding or trying to create a feature, we're actually going to start a new sketch perpendicular. So if you're looking at the picture, then you'll see that we want to be careful with how we orient our sketch. So we actually want to rotate it like this. So when we start the sketch, and you'll see that when we make the path, you have to be very careful with how the path ends up. So we're going to be creating a slot. Now, you can't see it up here because you have to use the rectangle drop box, and you'll see that there are many more options. So we're going to be using an overall slot and centering it here on the origin. And we're going to be going a whole 20 inches out and a 5-inch radius. And we'll zoom out so we can see it a little better. And for the purposes of simplicity, we're going to rename these sketches. So I will finish this sketch. And then if I highlight a sketch and then left click it again, it will allow me to rename it. So we'll rename it base and then click away for it to save. And then we can do the same thing over here and call it path. And what this does is it allows us to know exactly which sketch is which. It's like if you're familiar with coding, it's like adding comments. It's easier for you and for other people to figure out exactly what you're thinking with each different name. So now we'll be using the sweep command. So we'll go ahead and use sweep up here. And then we will get the dialog box over here. And then so for the profile, we'll select our base. And then for the curve or path, we'll be selecting our slot. And then all of a sudden, we have a whole loop. Now this is great, but the shape isn't perfect. So we're going to be using some chamfers. So we want to be careful that for later purposes, that we don't want to end up with the face or chamfering the face that's on one of the planes. So we'll go ahead and expand out origin so we can check to make sure which face is which. So we can see that the plane is on this right side, so we'll look at this left side and we'll add a chamfer. So it's up here by the fillets. And we're going to go ahead and click this second option where we have a distance and an angle. And we'll click this and select this entire face. And then we'll select the outside edge. And so as you can see, you now have this nice cut. And next we'll be doing some fillets. So if we zoom in here, you can see that we created 2 edges with this chamfer. And so we'll click both. And it will be a radius of 0.0625. And we'll hit OK. And then we're going to mirror all these features. And I may have selected the wrong edge, but for the purpose of this demonstration, it doesn't matter as much. So we're going to use the mirror function, and we'll select every single feature. And so when you no longer have that highlighted green, then you know you've selected everything. And for the plane, we'll select the plane so that we end up with a full mirrored belt. And there we go. So for the next video, we're going to be going over the RoboCup part, goal number 2. But for goal number 1, it's as simple as that. So now you know how to use a sweep. Remember that we need to create 2 separate sketches that are perpendicular to each other, and then be careful with the path so that it intersects with your base and it is completely perpendicular so that the base can easily follow the sweep without it interfering with itself. All right, let's move on.